bring in Drew Sharp, great columnist, Detroit Free Press, and get his thoughts of Calvin Johnson. Apparently, and he hasn't announced his retirement, but there's a report that he's going to retire. Do you believe the report that he is truly going to retire, Drew?
Yeah, it certainly looks that way, Dan. We've talked with Calvin during the course of the season about his future, and he always said that, he takes it a year at a time, but he still enjoyed the game. And then 2 weeks ago, when the first word was leaking out that he was contemplating retirement, supposedly he hadn't made up his mind, but this latest report now, it seems in pretty good detail that Calvin pretty much had made up his mind before the 2015 season started. Now it's just a matter of whether Lions ownership can find some way to convince him to change his mind. But it certainly appears right now that he's played his last game in the NFL.
And you asked the question, the first question I thought, and that is this Lions related? You haven't won a playoff game in, 24 years? If he was in a winning organization, would Calvin Johnson still be playing?
I think you have to factor that into it. I think there are a number of variables involved in this. One, he's been on a losing organization, and they've wasted his talents for 9 years. But also you have to factor in that Calvin Johnson is, in some respects, Roger Goodell's worst nightmare. He's a player with a brain. He's smart. He can see all the information that's out there about head injuries and how these NFL players who stay too long, they may not have that much of a life when they turn 40. I think he's able to make an honest, objective assessment of all the information he has about these injuries and look at, is it more important for him to have a good lifestyle when he's 40, to be able to walk, to play with his kids when he's 40? He's made more money than he can ever imagine. So that factors into it as well.
Yeah, we talked about Chris Borland, who looked like he had the start of a very promising career with the Niners when he retired. But here's a big-name guy. And, granted, at 30, you're starting to be in the twilight of your career as a wide receiver, but still a big name, popular. And for him to sort of step down, and you're doing it during Super Bowl week, I'm curious how the NFL family reacts to this, if they read more into this with concussions, injuries, everything, rule changes, how big of a factor that'll be.
Well, I'm sure the the NFL is not happy that this is kind of overshadowing the start of Super Bowl week with the teams getting out there to the Bay Area. But this is something that the league has to worry about, without question. Calvin Johnson is one of the more recognizable faces in the NFL. When you see the pregame, the montages on NBC and ESPN, who do you see there? Calvin Johnson is usually one of the 7 or 8 players shown there. He got the nickname Megatron because he was indestructible. He was more machine than man. And now, if he's leaving the game because he's worried about injuries, we're saying that this guy who we thought was a robot is actually mortal. What does that say about how dangerous the NFL game is?
Before I let you go, we talked about this first hour, that the lasting memory, which is not fair to him, but the lasting memory that we're going to have of Calvin Johnson is going to be a non-catch when he didn't complete the process in the game against Chicago. Right. Pretty amazing.
Right. The Calvin Johnson rule and the Monday night game where he had the fumble that resulted in a Lions loss, another blown official's call. He's known as much for problems with how the game is officiated, more so than anything else he's done on the field.
Great talk to you, Drew. I know you got a busy day. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Take care, Dan.
All right. That's Drew Sharp, Detroit Free Press.